Good afternoon. Here's another quick episode of Bob's Barn Workshop. As you can see, it's cold and nasty outside. I'm not going to do anything outside today. The wife's on a business trip. I decided it's time to make the next nice batch of delicious venison stew, if you will. Okay, so we've got some delicious, beautiful, fresh, this season chunks of beautiful, lean and clean venison chunks. We got some red potatoes, a nice big sweet onion, some baby carrots, and that's just a can of corn drained. You can use, frozen peas, frozen corn. I just happen to have a can around, so I've got that. And the very simple ingredients and just a few spices. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break that venison down into smaller chunks, and we're going to brown that up first. And you have to, the trick to making venison extremely tender is you need to simmer it for 3.5 hours. And then as we add the broth and stuff, we'll add in the cut up and peeled potatoes, let those cook a while, toss in the onions and the carrots because they take a while to cook. Near the end we'll throw in the corn. So we'll get to it. And I'm going to make this pretty short. I'm only going to show you a couple minutes of this, but these chunks are very large. And so I'm going to break them down. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So, I don't know, about 3/4 inch cubes, I'd guess. Doesn't really matter which way you cut them, because they're going to break down into super tender little chunks. So, cut across the grain when you can. See, there's the grain running this way, left to right here. So I'm going to cut that way. And I'll continue to break these down into these little chunks. There's a little bit of sinew there, but that's again, that totally breaks down when you cook it for 3 hours. So I'll show you how to get to that. So there's all that beautiful venison. It's all broke down into about 1 inch, 3/4 inch cubes. What I need to do next is get my pan very hot, because we're going to want that to sear and brown up quickly. Maybe I should have a show on PBS. What do you think? Just kidding. Remember the Galloping Gourmet years ago? I'm letting that warm up, and we'll come back to it. So the pan's getting pretty hot, and what I'm going to do is I'm only going to add about a tablespoon of this extra virgin olive oil, just to keep it from sticking. Now I'm using a conventional pan here. You can use anything your favorite. There's a little water left in there because I rinsed this out. But you can see that the water is spattering. And we're going to toss this stuff right in here. Alright. We'll get us a good stout spoon. Get those coated a little bit with the oil. And we're going to brown these down for just a little while. So let them sizzle away a little bit. And one thing I forgot to add in the ingredients is I found some nice big cloves of garlic, and my wife's got one of those fancy garlic presses, so I'm gonna get that in there because there's nothing better than smelling that that garlic toast. And I also found a big bag of big beautiful mushrooms, so I figured I'll cut a few of those and throw them in later. I actually want to put them in while I'm browning it, because browning these tastes delicious. Now we let these brown up pretty good on one side here for a few minutes, and we'll knock them around. And you want to do this all in the same pan. You don't want to take this in a frying pan and take it out, because you want the essence of all that good toasted meat to be left in the pan, and you're going to want that right in your stew to save the flavor. And one thing I want to mention about these mushrooms is I wash them really well, and you have to look at them very carefully. I'll show you one that's not washed. See all this black speckle and stuff on there? That's actually the soil that they grew these in. So you want to wash them under running cold water to get all that off. And I'm just going to slice these up coarsely too. And I was cutting some onions the other day, and you can see I cut my thumb a little bit, and so my knife is very sharp. So I'll finish cutting these up, and we'll put the garlic and these mushrooms in there. Alright, so I got the fancy garlic press out. Now these garlic cloves look pretty clean just the way they are, so I'm just gonna put them right in there. I got about 8 of them. I guess that'll do, huh? Some of them are small, so you can put 2 or 3 in there at a time. And I'm going to need to get my knife and kind of cut off what's sticking out the bottom, because it'll be stuck on there. And then it kind of folds around on the inside, so you got to kind of push it down in there. I'm going to get every little bit, because I like garlic. Cat, can you hear the cat? She smells it too. Alright. Get that garlic working for me. Oh yeah. Smelling pretty awesome in here. Now this is expressing a lot of juice, so it's not really frying up, but they are getting pre-cooked. I made a lot of mushrooms. I might not put them all in there. I pulled the stems out of most of them. I don't think I'm going to throw the stems in there. I'm just going to throw the caps in. Yeah, there's the stems. I don't want those. I don't know, I'm thinking that's enough. Alright, so I'm going to continue to cook this down for just a little while till those mushrooms start expressing their juices. I don't know, maybe I need a few more in there. I cut them up, I might as well use them. There's not that much left anyway. Toss them in. Alright. Cat of mine, she loves the smell of human food cooking, but then you show it to her and she like turns her nose up. But I don't think she would do that with this venison. Alright, now we're going to let that run for just a little bit longer. And I'm going to put some beef broth in there. Enough to cover the meat, just cover it. And we're going to put this on a low simmer. And I'm going to set the clock till, let's see, I think 5 o'clock. 6 o'clock almost. Alright, so I'll be back then and we'll start adding the rest of the stuff in here. Meanwhile, I'm going to peel up my potatoes and chop my onion. I'll show you my way of cutting an onion. It's probably stupid, but I'll show you my technique. That old cutting board you see right there is an old piece of a plywood left over, veneer plywood left over from a project. Now I just cut the ends off square. It's harder with these big flat onions. And I just score the surface. Peel off that first wilted layer. Boom. Now I want pretty big chunks. But there is a little trick to this. Now you notice all the little hearts in the middle. I cut across as many of those right through the center. Cut it in half through the center. Turn it on its side. I'm not seeing my hands very good. from that angle. And then I want pretty big chunks here, so I'm cutting about 3/8 of an inch thick all the way through. I'm trying to minimize the amount of cutting I need to do. Now the rings go this way, so when I cut this way, of course if you want this to be cut up finer for a salad or something, you just put your cuts closer together. But being that this is going in the stew, I want it pretty chunky. And just like that. Minimum amount of cutting. Boom. Alright. Later. Now it's only been a few minutes since I put them in there, but that looked like a lot of mushrooms. But as you can see, they've wilted and expressed their mushroom deliciousness in there. And this is just about ready. I wanted them to get cooked. It's just about ready to cover and simmer. And I gotta go find some kind of broth. Alright. Oh my god. You can't believe the smell of that garlic and that venison stewing away. It's been simmering down. It was getting a little dry, so I added a little bit of the water first. What I'm going to do is toss in my onions. No, I don't think so. They'll disintegrate. Onions just go right apart. So what I'm going to do is what I have here, I got myself a quart of very hot water out of the tap. Our water heater is very hot, and I threw in 4 bullion cubes. If you look carefully, you can see them in the bottom down there. Now they're not thoroughly dissolved yet, but they will in time anyway. So I'm going to just cover up that venison, and I'm going to bring that to a boil again. And I'm going to put it back here on this simmer burner, and I'm going to set it for 3 hours. And after 3 hours, then I'm going to add the hard vegetables, let it go probably 15-20 minutes, and like the carrots and the potatoes. I like the baby carrots whole, they're fine. And then, as I said, I'm going to let that come back to a good stout boil so everything's good and hot. And then right at the last, I'll throw in the corn and maybe a little cornstarch or a roux of flour to thicken it just a little bit. I don't like it too watery, so I do like to fatten up the broth a little bit. But she's coming right along. Next time you'll see me, it'll be like 3 hours, guys. So take a break. Go get a job done for the house. See you later. So, by the way, put a lid on your pots because they will boil a lot faster. And I see the steam coming out of this, so she's boiling pretty briskly. So, I'm just going to light up my simmer burner behind it, which is a little tiny burner. Because after this is going, you don't need a lot to keep it going. And there you go. Turn off the big burner. And 6 o'clock is the bewitching hour. Alright guys, later. Well, we're not at quite 3 hours, but stuff is starting to look so the venison will break up easily with the spoon. And we're going to be cooking it some more anyway. So, now the most dreaded job in the kitchen, for me anyway, peeling potatoes. I don't know about you guys. I hate it. Got one of these fancy peelers here, you know, and if you get right into it. I just wanted to show you that. Alright. So I got my, I got 5 of the potatoes done. I'm gonna see when I cut them up how I like it looks. I don't like it too full of potatoes, so we'll put it in here and decide. And then, all right. Well, I just tossed and everything that's left here pretty much, other than the corn. Obviously I think the 5 potatoes were enough. Obviously I'm going to need quite a bit more water, so I'm just going to keep track of what I put in and see if I can keep up with the bullion cubes. This is making a nice big batch. I'm going to start out with another quart of hot water. Let it warm up a few seconds. I did put a couple dashes of liquid smoke in there to woodsy it up a little bit. I think I might have to add another onion. I don't know, I like a lot of onion. Wait for the water to get good and hot. I think what happened is it actually simmered down and I lost a lot of my water just boiled away. I had it covered, but it still comes out, of course. She's looking good though, looking good. And you know, I think it's pretty healthy food. I mean, we're trying to cut down on animal fat, but that venison is extremely lean. Okay, there's another quart of water. We'll see if that tops it off. And I'm not going to put that in. I'm putting like 3 more cups, I think. Because I think these veggies will express a little bit more fluids. Okay, put it back on the big burner too. I'm obviously going to need to test the seasoning on this and put in salt and pepper, and that's probably all I'm going to put into it, and other than my thickening. Alright guys, that simmers another 20 minutes or so. Because I added 3 more cups of water, I'm adding 3 more bullion cubes. Now this is different than the first ones I put in. These are the soft kind, you can kind of crumble them up. Because I added 3 cups, I wanted to add 3 more. The broth is nice and beefy though. I did taste it. And I'll start watching, and when this starts cooking along here, then before I'm done I'll toss in my corn and let that warm up and thicken it up, and we'll do the final taste test. Hang in there. Alright guys, the time has come. She's been simmering. It's 6:24, so it's been 3.5 hours since I started this, I guess. In goes the corn. I tested the vegetables. They're all cooked, so they're tender. The carrots and so on. Oh, got a little piece of tin foil from the bullion cube. Now, if you guys have never used cornstarch gives it a silky, silvery, and it doesn't taste like, kind of a silvery look. And all you do is get a couple of tablespoons of your cornstarch in a cup, and we'll add about a 1/4 cup of water to that. What's nice about cornstarch too, it's not unlike flour. It doesn't get lumpy. It dissolves easily. Get down in the corners and get it all. Now this might be too much. I've moved it back to the bigger burner. So I'm going to add this while I'm stirring. But again, it won't make lumps. Now see how that just instantly thickened? What I like that too is it suspends a little more. It suspends the heavier vegetables too, so they kind of float up in the mix a little better. Well, I think we're good. Oh yeah, that's just right. Yeah, and it thickens almost instantly too. So I make my gravy and everything with cornstarch. Okay, I'm gonna, look at that, the meat is totally just turning to shards. Gonna let that heat for just a couple minutes to make sure everything's cooked through all the cornstarch. And that look great, guys. Now it does need, I tasted it, it needs just a touch more salt because those bullion cubes are pretty salty, and some pepper. I'm going right for the big container because it's a big pot. Big batch. There you go. Let's serve up a little here. And we'll take a look at it. Look at that. Isn't that glorious? We'll do a little quick taste test here for you. And we'll be done with this for today. See, the corn has still got a little crunch to it. And that's okay because I just put it in. That venison melts in your mouth just like butter. Alright guys, well, I'm going to have my dinner. Thanks for visiting with Bob in his kitchen workshop today. Glad to work with you. And check back on my next video. I'm going to build a sandblasting cabinet. Maybe tomorrow. Take care, God bless, stay safe. We're out.
Yay!